The first night was too quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't comfort, it warns. Rowan Pierce stood on the wooden deck of her new A-frame house, mug in hand, the mountains breathing fog below her, the porch light spilled over the railing, soft and gold, a kind of heartbeat against the dark. She whispered to herself, half smiling, bought it for the silence. Inside, half-opened boxes waited like silent witnesses, a folded comforter, a single glass on the counter. She had promised herself this place would be different, hers. Finally. Rowan unlocked her phone, snapped a photo of the deck, and posted it to her private Instagram with 12 followers. New beginnings. By the time she rinsed her cup, her phone buzzed. A screenshot her mother had taken it and sent it to the family group chat. Vivian Pierce. So lovely. Darling. Lucas and Hannah can move in this Friday. It's perfect for the baby. Charles Pierce. We'll handle the paperwork later. Maybe add dad to the title for tax efficiency. Lucas Pierce heart emoji, house emoji. Rowan blinked. Once, twice, then typed slowly. What are you talking about? It's my house. Read receipts. Silence. Then her mother again. Don't be defensive, sweetheart. Family shares. You know that. Her thumb hovered. The air seemed thinner. She deleted the post, turned off the phone, and let out a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. Inside. The refrigerator hummed. Rowan leaned against it, the vibration steadying her. She could still hear her mother's voice, syrup sweet from years of practice. Family shares, the same phrase used when they'd borrowed her savings for Lucas's first car, or when they'd turned her old bedroom into his gym. Rowan exhaled, whispering, "Not this time." She walked to the window, the deck light reflected in the glass like a coin she couldn't spend. Beyond it, the forest stood dark and absolute, a wall of black trees that didn't care who owned what. The phone buzzed again. A video call from Vivian. Rowan let it ring out. Then another message popped up from Charles. You should have told us about the purchase. Real estate affects family taxes. We'll drive up tomorrow to discuss details. Rowan's pulse jumped. Discuss details meant decide for her. It always had. She opened the sliding door, stepped back outside. The air was sharp, clean, and merciless. Down the hill, faint lights blinked from a highway, tiny, distant lives moving without her. For a moment she thought of calling someone, maybe her grandmother Evelyn Moss, the only Pierce who still called her Ro, but it felt too soon to explain. Instead, she whispered into the dark, I just wanted one thing that was mine. The deck light flickered once, as if agreeing. Rowan turned it off, locking the door behind her. In the reflection of the glass, she could almost see her family standing there, Vivian with her polished smile, Charles in his pressed shirt, Lucas holding his charm like a weapon. She whispered to their ghosts, I didn't invite you. Then she walked deeper into the house, leaving the night outside to decide whether it would protect her or watch her burn. The next morning, the mountain light came through the tall windows like a slow confession. Rowan sat on the floor among boxes labeled kitchen, books, misc, trying to remember when she'd stopped expecting warmth from anyone named Pierce. The smell of pine carried her back to Connecticut, to the house on Maple Bridge, where silence had always been louder than any argument. Her childhood home had the kind of symmetry that magazines adored: white shutters, trimmed hedges, an entryway that smelled of polish and control. It was perfect because her mother needed it to be. Vivian Pierce wasn't cruel in public. She was elegant, endlessly composed. Her cruelty lived in omission, names left off invitations, calls unanswered. Birthdays slipped her mind. When Rowan was 10, her brother Lucas got pancakes shaped like an L before his big lacrosse game. Rowan made herself dry toast and told no one. The memories came in flashes, each one clean and cruel. The Christmas they forgot to buy her a gift. The graduation dinner she learned about from tagged photos. The college winter break when they told her flights were too expensive and then mailed a card from home. All smiles and matching sweaters. Her father Charles had his own version of erasure, rational, polite, financial. It's better this way. Row, he'd said after transferring her savings to help Lucas get started. Every decision came packaged as strategy. Every wound came wrapped in logic. Rowan pressed her hands to her face, trying to block the memory of that first Christmas alone in the dorms. Ramen noodles, old movies, the radiator clicking like a metronome to her isolation. That was the year she learned something crucial, the difference between being forgotten and being erased. One is passive. The other is planned. She had learned to armor herself in competence. Every award, every promotion was proof she could exist without their acknowledgement. But even success felt like paperwork, something to be filed and ignored. Her phone buzzed again, a new message from her mother. We're bringing Lucas's things up Friday. The house is perfect for family. Don't stress, sweetheart. You'll love having company for Christmas. The words pulsed on the screen like a recurring nightmare. Rowan typed and erased half a dozen replies before settling on silence. She'd spent her entire life writing the polite versions of no, the softened phrases that let her family keep power. This time, she'd say nothing. Silence, she decided, would be her language too. She rose, opened the deck door, and stepped outside. The valley was wrapped in fog. The world looked erased. For the first time. That felt like relief. Rowan whispered to the cold air. If they erased me, I get to stay gone. Her phone buzzed again inside, vibrating against the countertop. She didn't move. She watched the mist drift through the pines until the sound stopped. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was alive, and for the first time, it belonged entirely to her. The snow came early that week, a thin white film covering the gravel road leading to Rowan's house. She was unpacking the last box of kitchenware when the sound of tires crunching outside made her freeze. For a second, she thought it was a delivery truck. Then she saw the dark SUV, her family's car. Vivian stepped out first, perfectly dressed as if the mountain were another stage for her to command. Behind her, Charles carried a folder, always paperwork, always control. Lucas followed last, his pregnant wife, Hannah, in tow, her expression uncertain, her hands resting protectively on her stomach. Rowan didn't move. Through the glass door, she watched them approach the porch like they already owned it. Vivian knocked once, twice, then called out with a brightness that scraped like glass. Sweetheart, we made good time. You won't believe the traffic in the pass. Rowan opened the door but didn't invite them in. You shouldn't be here. Oh, don't be silly, Vivian said, brushing past her. Family doesn't need invitations. Charles set the folder on the counter. We just came to help you get organized. This place could use structure, financially. It's not wise for one person to manage a property alone. I'm not alone, Rowan said quietly. Lucas grinned. That easy. Practiced grin that had gotten him out of everything. Look, Ro, you've got space, and we've got a baby on the way. Win-win. Mom says there's even a guest room upstairs perfect for a nursery. Vivian clasped her hands as if the decision were made. You'll love having us around for the holidays. We'll make it festive again. Rowan's voice cut through the room, soft but final. This isn't a family home. It's my home. Vivian's smile didn't falter, but her tone sharpened. And who paid for it? You think one good year at that little agency makes you independent. We've carried you for decades. Rowan stepped closer, steady. You erased me for decades. The air cracked between them. Charles cleared his throat, unwilling to lose ground. Enough sentiment. Let's talk logistics. We'll have movers here Friday. I've already contacted a contractor to install child safety locks. And the sound of metal scraping interrupted him. Rowan turned toward the porch. A man in a work jacket knelt at the door, tools spread beside him. What is he doing? Rowan demanded. Vivian answered lightly. Changing the locks, dear. The old ones were flimsy. You'll thank us later. Rowan walked to the doorway, her voice rising. "Stop. Now." The locksmith looked at her, confused. "Ma'am, Mr. Pierce said you requested I didn't?" Charles's voice turned cold. "We're protecting an asset. You can't just buy property and exclude family. It's reckless." Rowan's pulse pounded in her ears. She grabbed her phone, opened the camera, and took a picture. Vivian, Charles, Lucas. The locksmith, the open toolbox. Evidence. Vivian's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" "Documenting," Rowan said. "Don't you dare turn this into drama," Vivian snapped. "We came here to help." "You're being hysterical." Rowan smiled faintly. "You call it hysterical when I say no." Hannah spoke for the first time, voice trembling. "Maybe we should go. Viv, it's not our place." But Vivian ignored her. "You're not throwing us out." "Rowan." Rowan stepped back inside and locked the door, through the glass. Her family's faces blurred in the reflection of the deck light. Charles's voice was muffled but firm. "We'll talk tomorrow. Think this through." Rowan turned off the porch light. The reflection vanished, leaving her alone with her breath and the echo of her heartbeat. She sank to the floor, her back against the door, listening to the car start and roll down the hill. The house was still. Only the ticking of the thermostat filled the air. She opened her notes app and typed 3 words: document, protect, prepare. Then, beneath it, another line. They don't knock twice. She saved the file and closed her eyes, realizing the invasion had already begun. Rowan woke before dawn, the house still cold, her body tense from a night of half-sleep. Outside, the snow had deepened, muting everything. The footprints her family left on the porch were gone, erased by the wind. It felt almost like forgiveness, but she knew better. She brewed coffee, hands steady, mind already in motion. The house smelled of cedar and smoke. She turned her phone on, reread the last message from her father. "We'll handle things Friday. Don't overreact." That word overreact had followed her all her life. The family's code for stop resisting. She opened her laptop. This time, she wouldn't resist. She would fortify. By 7. She had filed for a new entity, North Hollow LLC. The name sounded like a place that couldn't be touched. She transferred the property deed, every utility, every account. No more family ownership. On paper, Rowan Pierce no longer owned the house. The LLC did. She called her grandmother. Evelyn Moss, the only one who ever believed her. "Nana. They showed up yesterday," Rowan said. "They tried to change the locks." A long pause. Then Evelyn's dry voice. "They always believed your life was their timeshare. You finally took back the deed. I'm scared they'll come again. Then make sure they can't get in. Silence isn't surrender. Kiddo, it's a boundary." After they hung up, Rowan made a list on a yellow legal pad. 1. Secure the perimeter. 2. Control the narrative. 3. Keep proof visible. By noon, she'd installed new smart locks, industrial grade, fingerprint coated. She chiseled the frame herself. Every strike of the hammer precise and final. When she finished, the deadbolt clicked with a sound that felt like closure. Next came the cameras. She mounted one facing the driveway, another above the porch, one inside near the kitchen window. The red light blinked steadily, an electronic heartbeat reminding her she wasn't defenseless anymore. In the evening, she drafted a guest policy and printed it on heavy paper. Her voice in it was calm, corporate, and cold. "All guests must be invited in writing. No one has standing permission. Uninvited access constitutes trespassing." She taped it inside the front closet door, beside the row of empty hangers. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a number she didn't recognize. A woman's voice came through, measured, professional. "Ms. Pierce, this is Rhea Donovan. Your grandmother gave me your contact. She said you might need counsel." "I think I already do," Rowan replied. "Good," Rhea said. "Families are the original corporations. We'll treat yours like one." That night, Rowan sat by the fire, laptop open, reviewing her own defenses. The flicker of light across the glass walls reminded her of the deck, the place where it all started. She thought of her mother's voice, the way it wrapped cruelty in endearment. She thought of her father's calm threats disguised as advice. She thought of Lucas's easy smile, already planning where to put the crib. And then, she whispered to the empty house, "This isn't a home for them. It's a line they can't cross." The snow kept falling, silent and relentless, as if the mountain itself approved. The following week, the storm broke, not the kind that rattled the windows, but the kind that arrived in emails, notifications, and polite messages that bled menace through their restraint. Rowan sat at her desk, the mountain sunlight bouncing off her laptop screen. Her inbox was a battlefield. Her father, Charles, had forwarded a series of documents for review. At first glance, they looked harmless, just property management forms and insurance verifications. But the signature lines told the truth. Charles Pierce, authorized representative. She read them twice, pulse steady, then laughed once under her breath. "He's really doing it," she whispered. A notification pinged. A tag. Her mother, Vivian, had posted on Facebook, "Feeling blessed. Lucas and Hannah finally found their perfect home to start their family. Couldn't be happier for them." Attached was a photo from Rowan's private Instagram, the deck, the fog. The caption cropped to read simply, "A quiet place." The comments flooded in. "So beautiful. Congratulations to the new parents, you raised them right." Vivian Rowan scrolled in silence. Each comment was another tiny nail in the coffin of her ownership. They weren't stealing her house. They were rewriting its story. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Lucas. "Hey, Ro. Mom's been super stressed. Let's make this easier on everyone. We'll just come up for Christmas, get settled, and figure out the rest later." She typed back 3 words. "Do not come," then deleted them. Ria's voice echoed in her head. "Every response is ammunition. Don't argue, document." That night, she called Ria. "They're turning this into a PR campaign," Rowan said. "If people believe their version, it's not just family drama, it's precedent." Ria's tone was calm, surgical. "Then we'll make your silence louder. Save every post, every screenshot. We'll make truth the paper they can't sign." When she hung up, Rowan turned to her desk. The house was quiet except for the creak of the wooden beams. She opened a folder titled Evidence and began uploading Vivian's Facebook post. The comments. Charles's fraudulent documents and Lucas's text. The folder felt like armored digital, invisible, and finally hers. She brewed another pot of coffee and sat by the window, watching the dark outline of pines against the snow. The screen light flickered across her face as she scrolled through years of family emails, messages layered with fake warmth. "We're so proud of you," followed by, "We need your help with Lucas's down payment." She highlighted each one and added them to the archive, proof that generosity had always been extraction. The next morning, her phone rang again. "Vivian," Rowan didn't answer, but the voicemail played out anyway. "Sweetheart, I don't know what's gotten into you. You're scaring everyone. We just want to be together for the holidays. Don't ruin this over pride." Rowan saved it, then played it again, letting the word ruin hang in the air. That was always the accusation. You ruin things when you want space. At noon, she drove into town. The snow had hardened to glassy ice, and her reflection flashed across every shop window still. Controlled, solitary. Inside the post office, she rented a private P.O. box under the LLC name. When the clerk handed her the key, she felt the weight of it. Small but absolute. On the drive back, she rehearsed what she would say when they inevitably called again. "This isn't silence. This is evidence." That night, the mountain wind howled like a warning. Rowan stood on her deck, phone in hand, staring into the dark valley. She whispered to the air, "You wanted a war of words. I speak paper now." The lights from the nearest town shimmered faintly below, a reminder that even isolation had witnesses. The alert woke her. One sharp vibration. Then another. Rowan blinked at the clock. Tau 2:13 AA. The blue light from her phone cut through the dark. Driveway camera motion detected. She sat up, heartbeat already quickening. Outside. The night was frozen still. Snow reflected the porch light like crushed glass. She slid her feet into slippers and padded to the monitor in the kitchen. The feed flickered grainy, grayscale. A figure moved in and out of the light beam. Broad shoulders, careful steps. The man bent near her mailbox. Rowan leaned closer. The camera refocused. It was Charles Pierce. He held a brown envelope, thick and creased. He glanced toward the house once, twice, and then shoved it into the mailbox slot. The timestamp glowed red in the corner. 2:13, 47 a.m. For a moment, Rowan couldn't breathe. The violation wasn't loud or violent, but it was deliberate, a ritual, her father's version of a threat. She pressed record, saving the footage. Then she took out her phone and typed a message to Rhea Donovan. He was here, 2:13 a.m., leaving an envelope. I have video. Rhea responded within minutes. Send it. Don't touch the mailbox. I'll handle the rest. Rowan forwarded the file, her hands steady now. She brewed coffee she wouldn't drink and watched the clip again and again. Her father's calmness terrified her more than shouting ever could. At dawn, Rhea called. He's filed an affidavit, she said flatly. Claims you gave verbal consent for Lucas and Hannah to move in. That envelope is his proof of service. He's manufacturing consent. Rowan let out a dry laugh. He's forging permission. Exactly, Rhea said. But your video changes everything. We'll file an emergency motion today. Keep every second of that footage backed up. When the call ended, Rowan walked outside. The snow squeaked under her boots. She stood in front of the mailbox and stared at it, so small, so harmless looking. Her father had always used systems. Never fists, rules, contracts, favors, taxes. His weapons were paperwork. She whispered to the cold air. You taught me the game. You just didn't think I'd play better. Back inside, she labeled the video file Evidence 2:13 a.m. MP4. Then she made 3 backups: cloud, hard drive, flash. The house hummed with quiet electricity. For the first time, the silence didn't feel fragile. It felt fortified. Rowan sat at her desk, the early sun cutting through the frost on the windows. The camera's red light blinked softly above the door, her new heartbeat. By mid-December, the mountain felt smaller, as if the trees themselves were leaning in to listen. Rowan sat at the kitchen table, the blinds half closed, her laptop glowing with another unread message. The subject line was Simple Family Resolution Proposal. She opened it. A PDF, a new name, Glenn Hartman, Certified Family Mediator. The email read, Your parents have retained me to facilitate a peaceful transition of occupancy. Silence will be considered agreement. Please respond within 48 hours. Rowan stared at the screen. Silence equals consent. It was the oldest Pierce rule repackaged as law. Her phone buzzed. A text from Vivian Sweetheart. Please don't make this harder. Mr. Hartman will help us settle this before Christmas. Be reasonable, Rowan typed. Deleted. Then finally wrote back, no mediation, no discussion. Almost immediately, Charles replied from his own number. Your refusal will complicate matters legally. Don't make us escalate. She felt the word escalate like a shove. The same threat her father used when she was 15 and refused to transfer schools, when she'd said no to law school, when she'd chosen silence over argument. The phone rang again, this time from her grandmother. Evelyn's voice was low but steady. They've hired a man to play authority. Don't answer him. I already told them no. Rowan said, Good, keep doing that. No explanations, no apologies. They feed on reasoning. They'll come anyway. I know, Evelyn said. So when they do, have witnesses. Not family neighbors. People who don't believe in their story. Rowan looked at the snow outside, the empty road winding through the woods. She started making a list. The Wilsons next door, Gabe from town, Priya, her friend from the agency, people who would show up if she called, after the call. Rowan printed every email, every text, every document. She slipped them into a binder labeled boundary files. Then she slid the binder into a drawer near the front door. That night, she wrote a single line on a sticky note and placed it on her fridge. Prepare for company. Outside. The wind picked up. The deck light flickered once, twice, then steadied. Rowan whispered into the quiet house, "If they want a show, they'll get one with an audience." The mountain air felt sharp, alive, and waiting. New Year's Eve arrived dressed in silver fog. The mountains were hushed under a sky bruised with stormlight, and Rowan Pierce moved through her house like a soldier checking the perimeter, every door locked, every camera light blinking, every document in its place. Inside, the living room glowed with soft amber. She had invited a handful of people, neighbors, colleagues, anyone who would ground the night in normalcy. Gabe from town brought cider. Priya from her agency carried cookies. The Wilsons came with their toddler who kept pointing at the blinking security light and giggling. The sound eased her pulse. They toasted early. The conversation was light, almost defiant. Rowan smiled, even laughed, but every creak of the porch made her eyes shift to the window. The clock read 11:07 when she saw the headlights on the curve of the drive. 2 SUVs. Her chest tightened. "Everything okay?" Priya asked. Rowan nodded once. "Company. Outside." The vehicles stopped in unison. Charles stepped out first, his winter coat buttoned to the throat. Vivian followed, perfectly composed in a white scarf that glowed beneath the porch light. Behind them, Lucas and Hannah climbed out, and between them, a man carrying a leather folder. The mediator. Rowan opened the door before they could knock. The air between them crackled. Vivian's voice was smooth, public ready. "We didn't want to end the year divided." "Sweetheart, Mr. Hartman will just clarify a few misunderstandings." Hartman smiled the neutral smile of someone paid to stay calm. "Ms. Pierce, your silence after my email is interpreted as acknowledgement of the family's claim. This meeting is a courtesy." Rowan's friends stood behind her, still as furniture. She folded her arms. "My silence isn't consent. It's exhaustion." Charles stepped forward, tone clipped. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. You can't barricade yourself in and call that ownership. We're family." Rowan's jaw tightened. Family doesn't need locks changed at dawn or affidavits at 2 a.m. Vivian's composure cracked. "You called the police on us." "Not yet," Rowan said quietly. "But I will." She turned her head slightly toward the kitchen. "Officer, you can come in now, from the hallway." Deputy Miller appeared, uniform sharp, expression unreadable. He held a sealed document. "Charles and Vivian Pierce. This is a court injunction restricting access to the property known as North Hollow House. You are hereby notified of trespass." Vivian froze. Charles tried to speak, but Miller's tone cut him clean. "I suggest you leave peacefully." Behind them. Fireworks bloomed faintly over the valley, soft bursts of color without sound. Hannah's voice broke the silence. "I don't want to raise my baby in a stolen house." She turned to Rowan. "I'm sorry." Then she walked toward the car, tears freezing on her cheeks. Lucas hesitated, looking small for the first time in his life, then followed. Vivian stared at her daughter as if seeing a stranger. "You think you've won?" Rowan met her gaze. "No, I think I've stopped losing." Charles opened his mouth, but nothing came. He turned, shoulders rigid, and followed his wife down the steps. When the cars finally disappeared into the dark, the air seemed to exhale. Inside, the others were silent. Priya poured another glass of cider and handed it to Rowan. "To peace," she said softly. Rowan nodded. "To proof." The deck light hummed above them, steady and bright. Midnight arrived without a cheer, just the calm sound of people breathing in the freedom she had built. Outside, the wind carried the echo of fireworks fading into quiet. The morning after felt unreal, too still, too clean. The snow was untouched again, hiding every trace of tire tracks. Rowan Pierce stood by the window with a mug of coffee gone cold, the house behind her humming with quiet. It wasn't the fragile silence of fear anymore. It was earned, deliberate. The deck light was still on, a small sun in the pale daylight. Her reflection in the glass looked calm, older somehow. She turned and saw the remnants of last night's gathering, half-empty glasses, crumbs, laughter frozen mid-air, proof that people had come, that her story had witnesses. Her phone buzzed once with a message from Rhea Donovan. "They won't try again. Case closed. Proud of you." Another message followed, this one from her grandmother, Evelyn. "See, silence works when it's yours." Rowan smiled faintly, setting the phone face down. She walked to the front door and touched the new lock, the metal cold beneath her fingertips. She thought of every version of herself who had apologized for taking up space and quietly told them, "We're home now." Outside, the wind carried faint echoes of fireworks from the valley. The mountain was hers again, unclaimed, unspoken for. She opened the door and stepped out onto the deck. The air smelled of pine and smoke. Behind her, the house glowed through the glass, her fortress, her evidence, her peace, Rowan whispered. They mistook silence for surrender. They never knew it was armor. Then she took a slow sip of coffee, letting the warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she didn't feel erased. She felt written clear, deliberate, permanent. The wind shifted, carrying her breath away like a signature.